Hey everyone, this is Module 4 and it's our very first lesson, Lesson 1 on percents. So this is an introduction to percents. Go ahead and write down the essential question. And then I want you to pause this and try to match the percentages with the numbers over here, okay? When you are done, unpause it. I'm going to go the easiest to the hardest. So if you find out that you make a mistake, you can pause it and try to fix it. That's the best way to learn this, okay? If you pause it and try it, and then you can see if you got them right or you can see what your mistakes are. But at least try it. You might surprise yourself. Okay, in my mind, some of the easiest ones are this one. I am the chance of birthing a boy or a girl, flip a coin and it will land on heads or tails. That's 50% or 1/2. Okay, another easy one for me is I am equal to 1. 35 out of 35 questions were answered correctly. That's 100%. Okay, again, if you get any of these wrong, you can pause it and try to put your answers, switch them so that you have a chance of getting them correct. Okay, the next one I would like to do is 25% because I know that's half of 50% and that's half of half. So this one is actually 25%. Okay, I know that 10% is 1/10, and that's down here. I'm less than a fourth, but more than 100th. The part that helps me know it's exactly 10% is 11 out of 110. Okay, see, 11 out of 110 is 1/10, and that's 10%. Okay, more than one whole. Ooh, I like that one. There's only one number that is more than 100%, and it's right here. Did you get this one as 300%? Again, pause it and fix the ones that you need to, because if you put 300% somewhere else, you might need to change that one that you just wrote down there. So let's keep going. We still have 30%, 1%, and 1/2%. That's kind of weird. I'm gonna save that one for last. The 30%, I'm less than half, but more than 1/4. And then 15 out of 50, go ahead and write this. 15 out of 50 is equal to 30 out of 100. And that's where percent comes from. If you watch the videos that were posted last week, you know that percent, 100% means per 100. So that's 100 out of 100. 50% would be 50 per 100 or 50 out of 100. So percent literally means per 100. Go ahead and write that underneath there. Percent per 100. Okay, CENT, you may have heard of century, that's 100 years. Centipede has 100 legs. Centimeter, there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So CENT literally means 100. So percent is per 100. Okay, and then a tenth of a tenth, that would be 1%. Now the last one, I am less than 1 out of 100. So write this less than 1%. This one is weird because you see 1/2%. A lot of kids think that 1/2% is 50% or half. It's not 50%. 50% is 50%. 1/2% is less than 1%. And it is a real thing. If you know someone who's in sales, they might have a commission rate of less than 1%. You can have less than 1% of something. And we're going to do some examples in a minute. So hopefully you did okay. Let's move on to page 3. Okay, for this one, go ahead and shade in 30 out of 100 and then 3 out of 100, and then I'm going to help you with C. So you pause it and do these two on your own. Okay, 30 out of 100, you could have gone across, but this is to me the quickest way. Just shade 3 of the columns going down. That's 30 out of 100. 3 out of 100 looks like this. Now this last one is going to be very tricky. 1/3 out of 100. It's not a third of 100, so it's not a third of the squares. It's 1/3 of 1 out of 100. And here's a way to show you this. 1 out of 100 would be 1 square. Do you see that 1/3 out of 100 is even smaller than that? So this is going to be smaller than 1 square. It's 1/3 of 1 square. 1/3 of 1 square, because it's not even 1 out of 100. So a third would be like this, a little less than half. Okay, hopefully that made sense. We're going to go ahead and type a couple questions here. Well, I'm going to type it. You're going to write them. How are these fractions related to percents? Okay, these fractions are related to percents because what we just talked about on the last page. They are out of 100. Write it again. Percent equals per 100. Okay, and then our next question is, you're going to have to try a little bit of math here. I'm going to use a specific fraction. What are the equivalent representations of 30 out of 100? Okay, so first we're going to write 30 out of 100. And then we're going to write the reduced fraction. Go ahead and pause it and write it, or if you know it, just write it and keep watching. The decimal, and however you say it, 30 hundredths or 3/10, either way it looks like this. So you can have that 0 as 30 hundredths, or you can erase it and it's 3/10. It's the same thing. And then percent, how many out of 100? It's 30 out of 100. Okay, so those are all equivalent. Okay, on this chart, this one is a little tricky. Now, sometimes there's more than one right answer for the fraction. It just depends on if it's reduced all the way or if it has a decimal in the fraction. But what we can do, every time you see this percent sign, you can write the number 37.5 out of 100. You can write 100% as 100 out of 100. That's why it's one whole. You can write 110%, remember that word percent, over 100. So every time you see the percent, it's out of 100, including 1/2. I'm going to write that one carefully, 1/2 out of 100. Okay, now as a decimal, you can actually just divide that on your calculator. Go ahead and divide it and see if you notice some patterns. Okay, if you're watching this and listening, hopefully you are unpausing and you have this decimal column filled out. 0.375, 1.0, or just 1. It's fine if you have just 1. 1.1, 0.01. Don't forget that's the hundredths place value. Okay, so when you see that, you know that that's out of 100, 1 out of 100, 1%. And then the last one is a little tricky. A lot of kids think it's 0.5, but it's 0.5%. And if it's 0.5%, that means you would have to move the decimal twice to the left to make it into a decimal representation. And if you divide 1/2 divided by 100, you're going to get 0.005. Okay, hopefully that made sense. The last thing that we're going to do is example 2. So you can go ahead and try example 2 on your own. And in this one, one time the percent is given, one time the decimal is given, and one time the fraction is given. You can use your calculator. So go ahead and pause it, and you can use your calculator. Okay, if you are listening, hopefully you have unpaused it and now you're ready to see how you did. There's more than one way to write it. So just keep in mind that if you have the fraction, you can write 350 over 100 because that's percent. That reduces to 3.5 or 7/2 if you have it improper. So again, there's more than one way to write it. The decimal is 3.5, so 3.5. Now, the one below, to go from decimal to percent, hopefully you remember that you're supposed to move it twice. So it's 2.5%. Okay, so be careful. It's not 2.5 as a fraction. This one is really tricky. You can do this two ways. You can write 2.5 per 100, or you can take the decimal representation as 25 thousandths and take either one of those to make it into a decimal. Or I'm sorry, into a fraction. I said that wrong. We're making it into a fraction, which we have the fraction. Now you can go ahead and reduce it. So you can reduce it, you can leave it. In fact, I'm going to write it as 2.5 out of 100 so that you know where we got that from. And that's actually 1/40th if you simplify it all the way. Okay, for 1/8, it's 0.125. That's actually a pretty common one. And that is 12.5% if you move the decimal twice. Okay, so that is actually it for lesson 1. Go ahead and answer the summary on your own. So our question was, what does percent mean? What are equivalent representations using fractions, decimals, and percents? So what that means is to go ahead and answer your essential question using the examples that we just did. So go ahead and put a star by the summary, and you're going to do this on your own.